December 4th, 1939. A basement in Moscow. Two guards drag a small man across the rough concrete floor. He screams, he kicks. The sound of his weeping echoes off the damp walls. Why was this man hysterical? He controlled the secret police. He held the power of life and death. But facing a pistol barrel, his nerve failed. Just hours before, he stood in a courtroom. He wore a crisp tunic. He smiled. He believed his loyalty to Stalin would save him. But there was no mistake. The verdict was already written. The scene is chaotic. His knees buckle. He collapses. The guards do not stop. They lift him by the arms like a sack of grain. His heels scrape the floor. He begs for a mercy that does not exist. At first glance, a pathetic coward, but in reality, the architect of the Great Terror. His name was Nikolai Yezhov. For 2 years, he signed thousands of execution lists. He purged the army. He purged the party. Now, the cycle closed. The executioner became the target. This is the story of how the hunter became the prey. Subscribe to Veil History. Click the notification bell. We expose the files the textbooks ignore. Leave a comment on who to investigate next. Press the like button. The investigation begins, May 1895, St. Petersburg. A child enters a world of grime and desperation. This poverty will forge Nikolai Ivanovich Yezhov into one of history's most efficient monsters. His mother scrubs floors on her knees until they bleed. His father drifts between playing music and managing a cheap brothel. There is no stability here, only noise and hunger. Young Nikolai barely finishes elementary school before harsh reality intervenes. He is forced into factories and tailor shops. He stands just 5 feet tall. He is the kind of boy people overlook. They look right through him. That is their first fatal mistake. 1915. The Imperial Russian Army needs bodies. Recruiters do not care about his height or his weak chest. They hand him a rifle. Yezhov tastes the mud of the trenches. He smells the mustard gas. He bleeds, surviving wounds that would kill stronger men. 2 years later, he makes a calculation. Why did Yezhov choose the Bolsheviks? It wasn't just ideology. It was an instinct for survival. But the choice defined him. He joins the party in May 1917. 6 months later, Lenin's revolution tears Russia apart. When the Civil War erupts, Yezhov does not hide. He fights for the Red Army. He proves his loyalty with lead and blood. The war ends in October 1922. The nation is a ruin. But for ambitious men, it is a playground. Throughout the 1920s, Yezhov works as a secretary. He becomes a machine. The footage suggests a small man hidden behind stacks of paperwork, surrounded by cigarette smoke. His colleagues notice something unsettling about the man in the wrinkled suit. He never stops. His discipline borders on obsession. His attention to detail is almost supernatural. By 1930, Yezhov sits in Politburo meetings alongside the Soviet Union's gods. He constructs a mask of normalcy. He divorces his first wife. He marries Yevgenia Feigenberg, a glamorous Jewish woman 9 years his junior. They adopt Natasha, an orphan. Pictures show a happy father. At first glance, a shy, diligent bureaucrat, but in reality, a sadist waiting to strike. Witnesses describe a disturbing contradiction. At official gatherings, Yezhov sits quietly. He wears cheap blue blouses. He listens with his head bowed. He looks almost childlike. Then you notice the smile. Prominent Bolshevik Nikolai Bukharin recognizes the terror in that expression. He compares Yezhov to the cruel street boys of St. Petersburg, the kind who tie kerosene-soaked rags to cats' tails, just to watch them run, just to watch them burn. But this was only the beginning. Behind closed doors, the shy facade crumbles. Yezhov's appetite is voracious. It is indiscriminate. Women find his power aphrodisiacal. Men find themselves in his bed. He organizes parties that would make Roman emperors blush. Vodka flows like water. Testimonies reveal the room is chaotic, heavy with smoke, filled with sexual encounters involving both genders. This bisexuality is dangerous in puritanical Soviet society. It becomes ammunition. His enemies file it away for later, but pleasure comes with a price. Yezhov's body begins to rot from the inside. Muscle weakness leaves him exhausted. His blood count drops to critical levels. Skin infections plague his torso. He drinks to numb the pain, but the alcohol only feeds his paranoia. His temper snaps like a dry twig. The camera captures his decline, a puffy face, darting eyes, trembling hands. Combined with a relentless work schedule, these issues trigger severe depression. The executioner is killing himself slowly, glass by glass, even as he signs the death warrants of thousands. 1934. Yezhov ascends the hierarchy with terrifying speed. He does not just join the Central Committee, he becomes its driving force. Stalin watches him closely. He sees a man who executes orders without questions or morals. By 1935, Yezhov secures a secretary position. The dictator is charmed by this administrative genius. He drafts a letter filled with genuine warmth. When you say something, you always do it. Stalin even coins a nickname for his enforcer, "My Little Blackberry." But why did the tyrant show such affection? It seemed like friendship, but in reality, he was grooming a weapon. When infections threaten Yezhov's life, Stalin intervenes personally. He mobilizes the diplomatic corps. He arranges top-tier treatment in Vienna and Berlin. The telegram to the embassy is urgent. "I ask you to pay very close attention to Yezhov," Stalin writes. "Cherish him with care." He calls him a precious worker, but this care is an investment. Stalin needs Yezhov healthy for the bloodbath to come. December 1st, 1934. Leningrad. A gunshot echoes through the corridors of the Smolny Institute. Sergei Kirov, a top Bolshevik, falls dead. The assassin acts alone, but Stalin ignores the facts. He sees an opportunity. He needs a pretext to purge the old guard. He needs an architect for mass murder. He points a finger at Yezhov. The reaction is instant. Yezhov mobilizes the NKVD within hours. He works alongside Genrikh Yagoda to fabricate a conspiracy. They target the fathers of the revolution, Grigory Zinoviev and Lev Kamenev. The charge is plotting to assassinate Stalin. Evidence does not exist, so Yezhov creates it. The interrogation rooms turn into torture chambers. Sleep deprivation breaks the prisoners. Men stand for days until their legs swell and burst. Exhaustion induces hallucinations. Then comes the final pressure point, threats against their wives and children. Resistance collapses. Yezhov even begins writing a book about this imaginary plot. The archival footage shows Stalin's handwriting in the margins. He edits the fiction personally. August 1936, Moscow, the Hall of Columns, the first show trial begins. The cameras record. Zinoviev and Kamenev sit in the dock, pale and broken. At first glance, a court of law, but in reality, a scripted theater of death. The accused confess to crimes they never committed. They cling to a promise that their lives will be spared. It is a lie. The executioners wait in the basements. Yagoda collects the shell casings from the bullets that killed them. He labels them Zinoviev, Kamenev. He keeps them as souvenirs in his desk. But the purge does not stop. Stalin grows impatient with Yagoda's pace. He threatens to punch the police chief in the face if the work falters. The system begins to eat its own creators. September 1936. The balance of power shifted overnight. Genrikh Yagoda lost his post, and Nikolai Yezhov became the new head of the NKVD. His first order was absolute: investigate the predecessor, destroy him. Yezhov did not just arrest Yagoda. He fabricated a surreal plot. He claimed Yagoda attempted to assassinate him by sprinkling mercury on the office carpets and curtains. The list of charges grew. Murdering the famous writer Maxim Gorky, killing Gorky's son. Yezhov did not delegate the dirty work. He personally entered the interrogation room. He tortured his former boss to extract the necessary words. Yagoda was broken, but he was just the first prominent victim. The machinery of terror accelerated. There was no pause. Following Stalin's paranoid directives, the crosshairs settled on the military. Yezhov targeted nearly the entire Soviet high command. Why destroy your own generals? It seemed like suicide for the state, but for Stalin, loyalty mattered more than combat readiness. Marshal Mikhail Tukhachevsky was a hero of the Civil War and Stalin's old rival. Now, he sat in Yezhov's torture chambers. The Little Blackberry, as Yezhov was known, oversaw the questioning. The methods were brutal. The marshal's resistance collapsed. He signed the confession. He admitted to being a German fascist agent. He admitted to plotting with Nikolai Bukharin to overthrow the government. A special military tribunal delivered the verdict: guilty. The sentence was death. Yezhov went to the cellar to watch. The executioner raised his weapon. A single shot rang out. The bullet struck Tukhachevsky in the back of the head. Blood sprayed across the concrete floor. Yezhov immediately reported to the Kremlin. Stalin was waiting. He hungered for the specific details of the death. What were his final words? The dictator demanded. Yezhov replied with calculated coldness. At first glance, a simple report, but in reality, a ritual of submission. He told Stalin the snake claimed he was dedicated to the motherland. He said the traitor asked for clemency. But Yezhov assured his master it was a lie. The enemy had not laid down his arms. The Red Army began to hemorrhage leadership. The statistics are terrifying. Yezhov's NKVD executed 3 of the 5 marshals. 15 of 16 army commanders died. 60 of 67 corps commanders faced the firing squad. All 17 commissars were eliminated. The purge was total. The military force that had to defeat the Nazis was crippled before the war even began. But Stalin did not care about future threats from Berlin. He only feared the rivals in his own shadow. July 30th, 1937. On this date, Nikolai Yezhov places order number 00447 on the Politburo's table. The document demands mass executions and deportations on an industrial scale. It is not just a purge, it is a quota system. Regions receive specific numbers of people to shoot or imprison. Hundreds of thousands are marked for death before the ink is dry. August arrives and the terror widens. Order 0405 targets the Polish minority for total elimination between 1937 and 1938. The Great Purge consumes everyone. Old Bolsheviks disappear from their offices. Red Army officers are dragged from their barracks. Peasants, intellectuals, entire nationalities. No one is safe. Why did the system operate with such chaos? It seemed illogical, but Yezhov embraced randomness as a weapon. He states his philosophy plainly. There will be some innocent victims in this fight against fascist agents. We are launching a major attack on the enemy. To him, accuracy does not matter. Better that 10 innocent people suffer than 1 spy escapes. As the saying went, when you chop wood, chips fly. But Yezhov is not an armchair executioner. He does not just sign death warrants from a safe distance. He descends into the basements, he supervises the shootings, he participates in the interrogations personally. Nikita Khrushchev, then a rising commissar and Stalin's close advisor, visits the NKVD headquarters. He notices dark spots on Yezhov's uniform cuffs and on the office floor. The smell of iron hangs in the air. Khrushchev asks about the stains. Yezhov answers with chilling pride. One can be proud of those stains. This is the blood of the enemies of the revolution. The violence in the cells exceeds human understanding. Prisoners are beaten with such ferocity that their eyes dislodge from their sockets. At first glance, the death certificates list heart failure. But in reality, the victims were bludgeoned to death. Yezhov optimizes the process. The archives describe a specialized execution room designed for speed. The floor is concrete and sloping for drainage. At the end stands a wall of heavy logs to absorb the bullets. Cleaning equipment, hoses and brushes, stands ready in the corner. It functions exactly like a slaughterhouse. The system processes living human beings into corpses within minutes. The bodies are hauled away, the blood is washed off, and the next batch enters. History remembers the architect of this machine by one name, the Bloody Dwarf. The Bloody Dwarf. While millions starved in the provinces, Nikolai Yezhov lived like a czar. He, his wife Yevgenia, and their adopted daughter Natasha occupied a luxury dacha outside Moscow. It had everything: a private cinema, a manicured tennis court, a full staff of servants ready to serve tea at any hour. The footage shows Yezhov smiling on the lawn. He holds the back of a bicycle seat. He teaches little Natasha to ride. He plays the devoted father perfectly. At first glance, a loving family idol, but in reality, a cover for mass murder. The contradiction was staggering. By day, this man designed soundproof execution chambers and approved torture quotas. By night, he read bedtime stories and tucked his daughter into warm sheets. He separated the blood from the domestic comfort with terrifying ease. But the numbers tell the real story. The statistics from 1937 and 1938 reveal the scale of the horror. Over 1.3 million arrests. Approximately 682,000 executions for crimes against the state. These were not just names on a list, they were bullets in the back of the head. The Gulag population exploded. It surged by 685,000 people, nearly tripling in just 2 years. The camps could not handle the load. At least 140,000 prisoners died. Malnutrition, exhaustion, the freezing cold of the taiga. The true death count is certainly higher. By late 1938, the job was done. Stalin's enemies were either dead or rotting in Siberian pits. Yezhov's usefulness expired, but he made a fatal mistake. Yezhov began to believe his own propaganda. He drank heavily. He boasted that the Politburo was in the palm of his hand. He forgot his place. Stalin did not appreciate tools that tried to become masters. April 1938. The leader made his move. Stalin promoted Yezhov to People's Commissar for water transport. It sounded like an honor. In reality, it was a death sentence, a demotion disguised as a new title. Events accelerated. 2 months later, a catastrophe occurred. NKVD commander Genrik Lushkov defected to Japan from the Soviet Far East. He took secret documents with him. For Stalin, this was the final proof. Yezhov had lost control of his own department. August 1938. A new predator entered the ring. Lavrenti Beria arrived to assist Yezhov with the NKVD. The circle tightened. By autumn, Yezhov's closest colleagues began to disappear. They left for meetings and never returned. Yezhov recognized the signs. He smelled the end approaching. He asked Yevgenia for a divorce. He hoped to cut ties and protect her from his inevitable fall. It was a naive hope. It didn't work. Yevgenia was already compromised. Her history of numerous affairs and her connections to arrested enemies of the people made her a target. Panic set in. She wrote desperate letters to the Kremlin. She begged Stalin for mercy. The Kremlin remained silent. There was no way out. She begged Yezhov for poison to avoid the humiliation of arrest. They arranged a silent signal. When the NKVD was coming for her, he would send a specific object from his office. In the frame, a small, heavy object, a bronze statuette of a dwarf. November 1938. The signal arrived at the dacha. Yevgenia understood the message. She swallowed a lethal dose of sleeping pills. She chose death over the interrogation room. November 1938. Lavrenti Beria officially takes the chair of the NKVD. Stalin cuts all communication. He does not call. He does not write. The silence from the Kremlin is a verdict. Former colleagues cross the street to avoid Yezhov. The isolation is absolute. Why did he stop working? He knew the signs. It was a death spiral. Yezhov retreats to his Kremlin apartment. The rooms smell of stale alcohol and nervous sweat. He drinks until he passes out. The residence becomes a site of desperate bisexual orgies. It is not about pleasure. It is about drowning out the terror. April 1939. The inevitable happens. They come for the Iron Commissar. The machine turns on its master. The torture methods Yezhov perfected on thousands are now applied to his own body. Bone breaks, skin tears. Interrogators demand signatures. They force confessions to everything: official incompetence, theft of government funds, and collaboration with German intelligence. But that was not enough. They add charges of sexual promiscuity and homosexuality. In Stalin's puritanical state, this is a stain that cannot be washed away. February 1940. Yezhov faces the military collegium. The script is identical to the one he wrote for Yagoda. Yet, he clings to a delusion. He proclaims his love for Stalin. He looks the judges in the eye. He denies being a spy. "I prefer death to telling lies," he insists. He retracts the confession. He claims it was extracted through beatings. The judges do not look up from their papers. The trial is brief. Yezhov returns to his cell. 30 minutes pass. The guards summon him back. The verdict? Awarded death. The reaction is physical. Yezhov's knees buckle. He faints. Guards catch him by the arms before he hits the concrete floor. He wakes up screaming. Hysteria takes over. He weeps uncontrollably. His immediate appeal for clemency is denied on the spot. At first glance, a ruthless monster. But in reality, a terrified, broken man. The sounds echo in the corridor, hysterical screams and the scuffling of boots. He kicks and struggles. Guards have to drag him from the room. The man who watched hundreds of thousands die with cold satisfaction now faces his own end, sobbing. February 4th, 1940. They drag him to a sloping basement floor. Future KGB chairman Ivan Serov holds the pistol. He aims at the back of the neck. One shot. Nikolai Yezhov is dead at 44. There is no funeral. The body is immediately incinerated. His ashes are dumped into a common grave at the Donskoye cemetery. He lies there, mixed with the dust of his own victims. For years, the truth remains buried. As late as 1948, Time magazine speculates that Yezhov is still alive in an insane asylum. But the regime knows better. After the death of both parents, his daughter Natasha faces her own sentence. She's sent back to an orphanage. The state strips her of her identity. She is forced to surrender the surname Yezhov. The name is poison. Due to his role in the Great Purge, Soviet and Russian authorities never granted rehabilitation. In Russia today, he is not a victim. He remains the butcher who followed orders, an executioner executed by his own system.